Hi everyone, this is a presentation on anxiety. It's a very short presentation and doesn't really cover the full scope of the topic, but will give my patients an idea of what anxiety is and what sort of pathways are involved in the activation of the emotion. The aim of this presentation obviously is to share patient level information and get an approximate understanding of the psychophysiological processes and the physical effects of anxiety and panic attacks, and suggest simple strategies. Two important definitions. So anxiety itself is defined as intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. This is a definition from the Mayo Clinic website. And panic attack is the sudden episode of intense fear or anxiety and physical symptoms. And this is based on perceived threats rather than imminent danger. On this slide, I've got a sort of a demonstration of what the different regions of the brain on the lateral side represent and the sort of function that they do. And in this case, people would be interested in looking at the temporal lobe, where there's memory, understanding, and language. The occipital lobe, where there's vision, and all the other lobes generally, because some of the sensations, as you will see as we go on to the next slide, they are processed by these higher centers before any emotional output takes place. In this slide, we have a map of the communication pathways between the key structures that are involved in anxiety and panic disorders. So you can see that the amygdala connects with literally every other part of the brain there. And of note is the hypothalamus and the brainstem, because these two happen to be the pathway through which the emotional response would be sent. This one shows the sensory the pathway where the emotional stimulus would travel, starting from the sensory thalamus, either routing through the sensory cortex. This is obviously the longer pathway, and this happens to be routing through the higher centers or the executive brain. And by the time it comes back to the amygdala, some definition of what this could be has already been applied, and an appropriate emotional response will ensure. However, there is a short route where the sensory thalamus connects directly to the amygdala, and the amygdala immediately sends an emotional response through the hypothalamus and brainstem, as you can see there, and affecting what would become the anxiety or the panic attack. This happens well before the higher centers have actually defined what the problem is, and is essential in escaping immediate danger. For example, if you're crossing the road and you're somewhere in between and you hear a car, a sound, the immediate thing is obviously to run. Once you've reached the other side of the road, by that time the sensory cortex has processed everything and defined what the actual stimulus was and where it came from and the level of danger. And you can probably be relieved that you've actually crossed the road, because it might be an actual car which could have hit you, or maybe just a sigh because it turns out that it's been a toy that you had. But the more important part of this is that you've actually taken the step to survive the event. Before I go on to the last few slides, people who have had specific types of stroke may have malfunctioning amygdalas or a completely non-functional amygdala. And those people are actually notable in the sense that they have absolutely no fear. If you put them in a fearful situation, they don't respond as is appropriate to the particular situation. For example, as in crossing the road, someone might actually see a car coming, but just continue to saunter across very slowly. And such people actually have been known to be hit by cars. And it's a very clear demonstration of the power of the immediate response that you should have. Obviously, if it's engaging at the wrong time, then it becomes an impediment. So, just a quick summary of the functions. We've got the executive brain, which is the conscious center capable of thinking and reasoning, and has the ability to manipulate complex perceptions to form an idea of what it is dealing with. And this is based on what it already knows. The brainstem is what I've coined a keep alive center, and it processes, so it's like a pathway. It processes the body's automatic and reflex-based survival systems and activities, such as breathing and the fight or flight reaction. The key issues to note is true and false danger, so the ability to differentiate between the two, and an idea of management things that can be done. So identifying the triggers probably is very important, because it improves the aspects of memory, helping to remove the perception of danger in non-danger items. There are many psychological techniques. An example is CBT, which is actually well known to be able to help reduce fear in the case of those who perceive false danger, and phobias as well. So I hope this has helped somebody, and I'll just leave you on that slide just to have a feel and memorize the pathways from the emotional stimulus to the amygdala and right through to the emotional response. Thank you very much.